Dan Sheehan, co-owner of Good Vibez Presents.
So Cali Roots has become a cultural institution for the reggae world. When you first imagined this festival, what did you hope it would become, and how does it feel like seeing it is now?
I mean, I think it was in the early years. It was not. We never imagined it would be anything like this, so seeing what it's become is. It's even we've been doing this for so long. It's still very overwhelming at times. Where like, holy cow! It's like we never imagined it being like this. There was a point when we would be saying like, we're just running to try to keep up with this, and that was kind of like the big thing, right? Like, just like trying to run alongside it and make sure that we did the best job, because we were learning a lot of this stuff on the fly, So as we were doing shows well before this, but it was at this level, and so we were constantly trying to figure out how to do it. So.
Right. Well, you and Amy have built Good Vibez from the ground up. What were some of the early challenges in launching your first shows, and what kept you guys keep going?
I mean, I think the earlier challenges were, when I first started doing shows many years ago, the challenges were getting talent, and like as a new promoter, like it's like booking artists and like calling the agencies and trying to get them to kind of like book with us, and so those are some of the challenges that we face. Obviously the funding of shows and kind of the capital that it takes to do shows is still a challenge, but that was definitely some of the early challenges.
Yeah, I grew up in this industry since I was a baby and everything, and I've been to so many festivals around the world and everything, and one big thing that stands out to me with you guys is the community and your fans and the artists to the vendors and the staff. No one has ever been able to say anything not superiorly highly of you and Amy and everything. What's your guys' secret to that?
I mean, it's we're huge believers in community, right? Anything we do with Cali Roots, Holo, whatever we're doing, like the community that's the biggest part. And so I think for us, like we treat everyone like that. We treat everyone like they are family, like they are part of the community, from the vendors to the artists and the fans. I think the fans, at the end of the day, like we work for the fans, right? Like they're the ones that buy the tickets, they're the ones that stream the music, they're the ones that make this whole thing go round, and so we have to like create something that they feel that ownership in, and that's kind of been a big part of kind of like our brands and how we operate, and our relationships with artists are very strong, we all know that we're important spokes in the wheel that makes this whole thing go round.
Definitely. And being the first, green certified festival in California, why was that sustainability important to you early on, and how has that helped shape your festival's philosophy?
It was in the early years. Before the greening stuff, we were doing this festival, and we realized how much waste we were creating, right? Like from single-use beer cups to food containers to all the boxes of deliveries and all this stuff. Like there's so much waste that comes out of a festival, and so we wanted to make sure that we did the right thing, and we were right for the community, and we were right to kind of like make sure that we were doing our part and not contributing to to the mess that's going on in the environment. So it was a big part, and Amy was really kind of a driving force in that. She really kind of pushed that whole thing forward. It's unfortunate because greening, it's like, and doing that kind of stuff, it costs more money to do than just doing it, normally,
Right.
But it's cool to see a lot more festivals and a lot of other festivals doing that now, it's unfortunate and fortunate, but like sometimes it's because it's in, and it's it's the cool thing to do. But we were doing it before it was the cool thing to do. We were doing it when we were still kind of discovering how to do it,
Right.
So yeah.
Definitely. Well, and you guys, you mentioned Holo and festivals before this and stuff. You guys have expanded the Good Vibez thing so much.
Right.
How do you guys keep it so true? Like, because you spread it out so much.
Every single day we're working on that.
Yeah.
It's there's days where I'm like, holy cows, what are we doing? What have we done? And then there's most days where it's like, all right, it's like this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. Fortunately, like I have an incredible team that just absolutely crushes it. And so from the marketing to the logistics to the operations and all that stuff, we have really key people in there that kind of help us do that. Because at one point, a lot of the work was falling on me and Amy, and we started hiring and start bringing people into the fold that have really kind of helped us grow this and develop it into what it is now. I mean, it's I think this year, I think we'll probably have 12. I think that we'll have, and 8 of them are holo holos, and and we have this and we have Brighter Days and a couple others, but. It takes a lot of work and but it takes a lot of belief, right? Like that's the only way to do it. You have to like bet on yourself and you got to believe in what you're doing. Which takes effort. It takes effort to like believe in yourself and do it and know that there'll be bumps and there'll be punches and there'll be things that kind of take you down a little bit, but you get right back up and you continue to build something that is extremely special.
Definitely. And the diversity in your lineups culturally and musically really stands out. How do you go about curating artists the way that reflects the heart of the community?
That's a good question. I mean, I think, it depending on the festival, for talking about Cali Roots, right? Like, for me, like I grew up a big reggae head, right? I listened to, like that was what was my primary focus and primary was listening to was reggae and roots reggae, and so it's always been important for me to really kind of ingrain the cultural aspect of reggae music, which is artists out of Jamaica, and the foundation of reggae has come out of Jamaica, and so which is why like we have Protege and this past this on Friday having Buju on it that was kind of probably my best booking of the year. That one and T-Pain I think were two of my big bookings, but Buju. I shed a tear in the pit with Amy, it's like because like we know the significance of having an artist like Buju on our stage, and it was special, and so like that's something that it's like an Anthony B and some of these Protege, and it's special to have artists like that on there, and it continues to help grow reggae music.
And what's one behind the scene moment, maybe from this year, maybe a past year, that reminded you why you do this?
I think it's just moments that like I just had a moment with Camille. It's like it's just having some of these moments with artists that like it's special, right? It's like you have these big hugs and these big kind of moments where like, yeah, this is why we do this. Like, we do this for the music, right? It's like and we do it to kind of like push that forward, and it's sometimes you need to be reminded of that, because sometimes like I'm guilty of it. Like you get caught up in just focusing on the business part and like, all right, the dollars and cents, and then you do the show and you're around the energy, and you're like, no, like this is why we do the show. The byproduct is to make money, right? It's like you want to put on the best possible event. The byproduct is to make money. I mean, like because at the end of the day, like we have to make money. They have to, like they have to be profitable. That's the only way these things can work. So, I mean, I know that wasn't one specific one, but it's just kind of all of them. So It's just kind of there's definitely a lot of reminders where it's like, yeah, or when people, like we have so many people come up to us that are like, we've been going to this festival for 10 years, and we met my husband here, and like this is our 7-year-old daughter that like like that, what I mean? It's like there's things like that like just kind of like, holy cow, it's like, yeah, like this is why we do what we do, and it's not just for us, right? It's like it's for everybody out here. It's for it's for the community.
Definitely, and I mean it really shows what you do, you know what I mean? And everybody sees it.
Yeah.
So music festivals have changed a lot over the years. What do you think is the biggest misconception about festivals and what it takes to run something like Cali Roots?
I think the biggest misconception is that we're like a Scrooge McDuck here and diving in our gold coins. It's like, these things take a lot of money to put on and a lot of effort to put on, and so I think there's people that and social media has kind of changed the dynamic of not just our world obviously, but of just kind of in general, and like everybody and their grandma can produce a festival on social media, right? And so it's like I think there is that there's always the idea that we don't care, or all this stuff, and we actually do. If you look at the price points of our beer and our merch and things like that, like we try to keep things in a reasonable price because we do care, and we do realize that, and it's not just a money grab, and again, it's easy for people to just kind of like assume things, right? It's you can sit back and assume anything you want, doesn't make it true,
Right.
and so I think that's a big part of kind of just kind of like who we are as people and
Right.
why we do this, and I think
Yeah.
is also a big misconception, so
And that's why I wanted to do an interview like this, and
Yeah.
the most interviews that you could possibly do for something like that to get the most information out there. Especially with internet nowadays,
Yeah.
it's really just a good thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Hearing it from the source, So,
Exactly. And if you were to give advice to a young event organizer that's trying to do what you and Amy have built and stuff, what advice would you give them?
It's a good question. I often think about other independent promoters. There's not many of us, right? And there's not many new ones starting. And so I think there is the cost of entry is high, right? And so I think if you can play smart ball. That's all we're trying to do. Like, it's just trying to get on base, right? And so I think if you could go out there and do, kind of cut your teeth with a few smaller shows, kind of get to feel for it, develop those relationships with the artists and with the managers and the agents, deliver on your word, and like don't go too big too fast. I think is probably the biggest one. Unless you have a pile of money that you like, it's don't go too big too fast. And I made that mistake, on a few things. And you grow, you kind of expand out, you grow up, and then you realize, all right, we have to kind of recalibrate the machine. So yeah, I think that would be the biggest piece of advice.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Dan.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for giving me this time.
Yeah, absolutely,
Thank
man.
you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.